Today on the show, you and I discuss a type of child that is going extinct. Plus, some people are saying Donald Trump's meeting with Vladimir Putin was treason. Was it?
Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So have you ever had a consultant come into the place where you work? This is not unique to radio, but I know it exists in radio a lot. Oftentimes, perish the thought, one of the stations I work on isn't getting like the most slam dunk ratings on the face of the planet. Now, if you're working for a company that has the cash to spare for this sort of thing, sometimes they might hire a consultant. They might go, you know what, all the people we've hired to make this situation work are not making it work. Perhaps we need an outside set of eyes on this. Perhaps we need some advice from somebody that's removed from the situation and perhaps better at this sort of thing. And obviously, it makes people within a company bristle because, like, well, someone's going to come in that hasn't put in the years of hard work that I have into this, and they're going to tell me what to do and how to do it. And you know what? This is not a knock on consultants at all, because I think sometimes they yield fantastic results. But let's say you're a consultant and your job is fixing other people's problems. And you look around and you go, oh, man, they don't have that many problems to fix, yet I still have a mortgage to pay. What the hell am I going to do? Now, I don't know if you get these, but I get these emails all the time. And by the way, whoever the hell it is that's, blanket sending out these mass solicitations is hitting up the wrong person when you're asking me. I do not have the desire nor the ability to greenlight money for your cause, but I get emails from web optimization people all the time like, Dear AD, we think that your blog is great, but we think it could be getting more web hits. Want to find out how? Call us. And I get these sales emails from people over and over and over again. And they all have the same sort of language in them. Not bad, could be better. Or, oh man, you are blowing it. You are missing the chance. How can you possibly wake up in the morning and look at yourself in the mirror knowing that you are not using the proper search engine optimization terms? I get emails like that all the time. Outside help, consultants, folks like that, they oftentimes have to fish for work. And a good way of fishing for work is to go, oh man, there's a huge problem. Fortunately, I'm able to solve it. And you know what? I think that's why consultants, if they want to, could have long and fruitful careers in the world of politics. You've got a problem. I didn't wake up this morning feeling like I had a problem. Oh boy, do you. I've got a problem. Are you sure? Yeah, totally. Here's some data to support this idea that you've got a problem. Oh. Now, you might be wondering how to fix this problem. Well, no, not really. Well, you should be. And if you're not, everything is going to go horribly wrong for you and the world is going to end. I don't know. I'm doing okay, actually. You think you are. You're not. Don't be caught off guard when the inevitable fall comes. End of days. Horrifying times. Your business up in flames. Fortunately, for a consultancy fee of just this many dollars per month, I'm able to fix all these problems that you didn't know you had. And radio personalities, oh man, we suffer the brunt of this, because oftentimes you'll get outside consultants that come in and be like, nah, this guy, who's been doing well for a really long time, I think he could do even better with this. Now, by the way, I'm all in favor of coaches. I'm all in favor of people that can help you be the best version of yourself. Every top athlete in the world has somebody that is not playing the game going, here's how you shave a couple strokes off your game. Here is how you get your serve to be that much more dominating if you're in the world of tennis. Everybody has a coach. The very best of us in the world that do the things that we do have coaches. So it's not to say that you don't need outside advice, but a big part of the world of consultants And the big part of the world of business is going, oh man, oh, you're so screwed up. But I can solve that problem for you. Watch as I solve your problem for you. Me, I'm worth every penny. Every penny. And this is basically what Donald Trump has been doing in the world of foreign policy. You look at our relationships that have been tickety-boo with England for a very long time, for the most part. You look at relationships with places like Canada, with a nice people. We forgive them for the Nickelback records because, well, you know, they're just so awesome to us all the time. And, you know, we enjoy a comfortable relationship with those folks. Donald Trump came in and said, you've got problems that you don't realize you have with these people. If you think they're your friend, you're wrong. They're your enemy. I'm going to show you why. I'm going to show you about this big problem that you never knew you had. And then I'm going to fix it. Me, the Donald. And you know what? Based on what happened in Helsinki with Putin, I think we're looking a lot more of the same of that for the next couple of years.
Real radio.
104.1. Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So this is not unique to Donald Trump, but I think Donald Trump comes from the world of business where he's heard a lot of sales pitches from consultants over the years. A lot of people pitch him on a lot of different ideas. And I think a lot of what consultants do, as you and I were talking about before, is go, oh man, you have a problem. I didn't know I had a problem. Well, you do. End of days is coming if you don't do something about this problem. Well, how do I do something about this problem that I didn't know I had? I appear to be doing really well. Everything seems to be all right. Well, it's not all right. Fortunately, I'm here to help. My services cost this much. Let me help with your search engine optimization so you can compete in the digital era, AD. I get lots of these emails from people. Oh man, you're missing the boat. I'm not the person that green lights the budget for this sort of thing. Well, can you put us in touch with the person who is? No, do your own freaking research. You're supposed to be so good at stuff. You figure that the hell out. I don't know if you get a lot of those calls or emails, or in the world of broadcast, you absolutely do. In the world of anything digital, you absolutely do. Anyways, Donald Trump has apparently heard a lot of these pitches because I don't know if you've noticed this, but a lot of times when we didn't know we had a problem, he pointed out that we had a really, really big problem. Like, oh man, I don't know if you knew this, but Canada is the freaking enemy. What? But maple syrup, Rush Records, a friendly relationship that we've enjoyed for years. Yeah, no, they're the freaking enemy. And we're going to get into it with them. You didn't realize we had this problem, but I realized we had this problem. Fortunately for you, I have the insight to notice it and the ability to save you. And this is sort of a common tactic. You know, like I said, consultants, they might not necessarily have problems to fix, but they still have mortgages to pay. So they go and try and convince people that there are problems, or sometimes they create problems. And then they can get credit for fixing them and justify their next, 4 years. So look, I mean, here's the thing about the situation with Putin. With Putin, Donald Trump did more or less the same thing. He said, the relationship with Russia is worse now than it ever has been. Or sorry, he said the relationship with Russia was the worst it's ever been, not since Putin and I hung out. I fixed it. There was a massive problem. I fixed it. It was the worst problem in the history of our two countries. I have a feeling that if Kennedy were still around, he might take issue with that statement. Perhaps Reagan as well. But no, there was a huge problem and you fixed it. Now, is there a problem with Russia? We are not. I don't know if you'd say that this is a Cuban Missile Crisis time, but I think that we could all agree that things with Russia are not as relaxed as they were for the previous decade. So it's an interesting one. Donald Trump, hanging out with Vladimir Putin in Helsinki, has done something that I'm always in favor of. It is coaxed bipartisan problems with him and his behavior. If you've listened to the show for any length of time, I'm all in favor, I'm sure, of, well, anything that brings people together, anything that causes people to cross party lines, anything that causes people to go, that might be the head honcho, but you know what, this is how I feel, and I'm just going to act upon my gut. And in this particular instance, well, politics can make for strange bedfellows. And when you get people like Paul Ryan and Anderson Cooper all on the same page, that's interesting. It's interesting times. Paul Ryan said there is no question that Russia interfered in our election and continues attempts to undermine democracy here and around the world. The president must appreciate that Russia is not our ally. Anderson Cooper said it was the most disgraceful display he'd ever seen put on by an American president or something like that. Interestingly enough, almost word for word what John McCain said. He said today's press conference in Helsinki was one of the most disgraceful performances by an American president in memory. The damage inflicted by President Trump's naivete, egoism, false equivalence, and sympathy for autocrats is difficult to calculate, but it is clear that the summit in Helsinki was a tragic mistake. So there you go. Like I said, politics makes for strange bedfellows. And one thing that people seem to be able to agree upon across party lines is that it was a bad idea for Donald Trump to cozy up to Vladimir Putin. He basically said, we met, we talked, and he said he didn't meddle in the election. I'm kind of inclined to believe him. And the U.S. relationship with Russia had never been worse, but seeing as I met with Vladimir Putin, it's all on the mend now. Oh, man, there you go. You're welcome in advance. This is another time I saved you from a fiery ball of global Armageddon. First, it was Kim Jong. Now it's Putin, just knocking world peace out of the park left, right, and center. That's the narrative that Donald Trump created. And, well, naturally, there's a lot of folks that are going, hey, here's the thing. You met with a guy who has a violent disregard for the rights of other people, the rights of other nations. You met with someone who was complicit in the slaughter of Syrians. He violated international treaties. He assaulted the democratic institutions throughout the world. And you made it seem like that was okay with us as Americans, and it's not okay. I 100% get that. I understand why people would have that kind of a problem with Donald Trump's meeting with Putin. Does it sort of allow Putin a certain amount of like, look at me. I'm being accepted by the other guy that has all the big bombs and guns, and yeah, everything's okay for me because I'm Putin and I get my place on the world stage even though everybody else doesn't want me to have it. This guy just gave it to me. You're all my little bitches. I understand that sentiment, but you and I are going to talk about why it was actually a good idea for Donald Trump to meet with Putin next.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land.
All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on, come on.
You know, I'm with you on pretty much everything else, AD, but I could call you on this one. How could you possibly say it was a good idea for Donald Trump to meet with Vladimir Putin? He was basically making himself Vladimir Putin's bitch in the eyes of the world. He was kowtowing to a violent dictator with disregard of human rights, a guy who was complicit in the slaughter of the Syrian people, violation of international treaties, a guy who basically was doing his very best to tear down democratic processes across the world. How on earth could you say this is okay? Well, here's the thing. All that people have been tweeting at me constantly since before we went to the break, all of that, yes, I 100% agree that all of that happened. But here's the thing. Here in America, we've been divided and separated by politicians. They've been told this person is the enemy. This person that voted differently than you is the enemy. Don't talk to them. Don't talk to them. Whatever the hell you do, don't talk to them. Nothing good will come of talking to them. You just vote for me and I'll handle it. But don't look at them. Don't talk to them. Just be mad at them and stay there in your corner. They're going to stay there in their corner too. And that doesn't do us any good. We're not getting along all that great in America. I think we can all agree on that people are divided. People are angry at each other. And we're not moving forward in that respect because we've been successfully divided. Now, when you have a vast divide, like the one that divides nations like Russia and America, those divides can seem even more insurmountable. And I agree. Donald Trump's motives for going and hanging out with Putin, making nice, might not be pure. But even if they are completely self-serving, even if he is kowtowing to the guy that handed him the election, like a lot of people say he is, even if he is complicit in the slaughter of the Syrian people by doing this, by allowing Vladimir Putin to make nice with the rest of the world at our expense, you will never, ever hear from me that I don't believe that talking is the right thing to do. I'm always in favor of contact. I'm always in favor of anything that gets a person or people out of their respective corners. There's just no way contact is a losing proposition for us. Contact always has been and always will be a good thing. And we've discussed these principles on this show over and over again. But let's just run down a few places where contact has been important. The one thing prejudice cannot stand up to is contact. We know this. We know this. And I bring up this example constantly, but it works perfectly in these situations. My family comes from the Northeast, from New York up to Maine. Basically, that's where my family is spread out across the northeastern seaboard. And in that area, if you walk outside your house and go, I'm a liberal Democrat, chances are you're going to be met with a chorus of, me too, I am also a liberal Democrat. It's safe to assume that everybody that you meet in the street is going to believe something similar to you, politically speaking. And I spent over a decade in Houston. Houston, Texas is a very different place than the Northeast, especially when it comes to political ideologies. And it's the same deal when you walk out of your house and you go, guns, no Obama. You'll be met with a chorus of guns, no Obama. And, well, there's a certain amount of comfort in that. It's nice to know where people stand. It's nice to know that if you are of a certain opinion, the chances are that you will be supported when you walk out of your house. Makes you feel safe and cozy. Like you're not going to be challenged. But it also makes you feel like you're not going to learn, you're not going to grow, and you're not going to expand your mind in any way, shape, or form when you have a conversation with someone that just parrots back what you said to them over and over again. You go, you're right. No, you're right. No, this is really interesting. It's so great how right we both are. What about those people over there? Oh, well, they're clearly wrong because they're not us. That does us no good whatsoever. And there's a couple different cities. There's a couple different cities that I really, really enjoy because of this. I like Austin, Texas. You ever been to Austin, Texas? Austin, Texas, when I first came to America, when I was first on tour, when I was a kid in a punk rock band, and we got our record deal and we came to America, you have to understand, my experience of the world kind of centered around the East Coast and England. I hadn't spent that much time in Texas. I spent some time in Texas. My best friend to this day lives in Texas. We met while we were both going to an American school in England. And I've been to visit him. But my real life experiences of America had been predominantly centered around the Northeast. And other than that, I'd lived in London. And I remember I got a scholarship to go to New England Conservatory of Music. Never wound up going, much to my parents' chagrin. I got a scholarship to go to New England Conservatory of Music to study classical drums and percussion, and classical percussion and jazz drumming, rather. Now, you offer a 16-year-old an opportunity to go on tour versus a dorm room, well, trust me on this one, the 16-year-old is going to take the tour bus every single time, and that's exactly what I did. So I never wound up going to college in Boston to Tufts and New England Conservatory of Music. Just saying that I wasted a scholarship to those two institutions of higher education makes me sound like an incredibly foolhardy person, but the past is the past and I can't do anything about that now. But the point I'm trying to make is when I got to Boston, I was like, oh man, as someone that's kind of sort of from the East Coast and familiar with New York and someone that grew up in England, this is sort of an amalgamation of both things. I get this. I'm comfortable. I'm safe. I'm secure here. I understand this. This is something that I get. That's what I expected to like when I arrived in America. That's something that I'm comfortable and okay with. I was not expecting to be a kid in a band, go on tour, and have the best times of my life in cities like Houston, Austin, San Antonio. I didn't really know too much about Texas. Texas was this foreign thing. Texas was this thing that I didn't fully understand. Texas was, people with accents that I hadn't grown up around. Texas was a place with a very deep sense of cultural identity. Texas was... I'll never forget my previous experience. I mean, my best friend was from Houston, but I'll never forget somebody in my class being asked about how he felt. He was from Texas. How do you feel about Texas being the second biggest state next to Alaska? He was like, you wait till the ice melts. Which I thought was funny, but it was a whole different cultural experience than anything that I've been in, than anything I had been indoctrinated into growing up. So I wasn't expecting to love Texas so much, but God, did I love Texas. Everyone was so nice. People were so kind and welcoming, and they really wanted to know about you, and they would give you the shirt off their back if you needed it. Had an amazing, amazing time in Texas, especially in Austin, Texas. And one of the things that I noticed about Austin, Texas, when I spent more and more time there, was the fact that you had two very different things. You had the old school, come and take it, capital of Texas, guns no Obama attitude. Obama wasn't a thing at the time, but nevertheless, the sentiment remained the same. But you had that right in the middle of one of the biggest music scenes in all of America, and a sentiment that Austin needed to be kept weird. And I found these two attitudes to be violently opposed. Yet, I found the people that had these attitudes remarkably capable of getting along in Austin, Texas. It was a beautiful thing. People who didn't agree with their neighbor were able to get along with their neighbor because they barbecued together. And that's an intrinsically valuable thing that we need more of. Similarly, when I started doing a lot of work in San Diego, California, same kind of radical difference in ideology exists there. Meaning, you have one of the biggest military populations concentrated in America, in San Diego. There's a massive military community in San Diego. And that military community is made up of people that have enlisted from all over the country. And you have that plunked down right in the middle of hippy-dippy, yoga-doing, tofu sprout-eating California. Every cliche that you could imagine about California, the whatever man attitude that you might have heard about, is alive and well with the people of San Diego. And it's so cool in a lot of ways because you're there and you're like, I've never seen anything like this anywhere else. And it's true, you haven't. It's a beautiful, awesome thing. And unlike other California cities, it exists alongside a massive portion of the military population. And what happens with this massive portion of the military population? Well, they go out, they hang out, they get along with the hippy-dippy tofu sprout eating types. They meet them, they make friends with them, sometimes they marry them. And you know what? It's awfully hard to be mad at the person that voted differently than you if they, loaned you their lawnmower, or if you think they're remarkably hot and you would like to see them naked. And this is why contact is always a good thing. Donald Trump might have been self-serving and wrong in his motivation to go hang out with Vladimir Putin. He might have been, as many people have suggested, kowtowing to the guy that handed him the election. He could have been complicit in the slaughter of the Syrian people by giving Putin a public forum with which to go, hey, not a bad guy. He could have just been serving his own re-election needs by putting himself in a position to say, oh man, things had never been worse between us and Russia than they were until I walked in and with my charm and good looks managed to disarm Putin and put us back on the road to friendship again. And by the way, he did say things had never been worse. And I believe that, if Kennedy were still around, he might have a thing or two to say about that. The Cuba missile crisis, did we pay attention in history class? I don't know. He did say something kind of interesting. He said, opening new pathways to peace and stability in our world, I would rather take a political risk in pursuit of peace than risk peace in pursuit of politics. Now, does he actually believe that, or was he there in a self-serving move or a serving his masters type of move? I don't know. But I will tell you this. I don't think anything bad will ever come from talking. Nothing bad will ever come from two people sitting down, looking each other in the face and talking. Now, maybe you are meeting with someone who is a horrible, awful person. But if someone's gunning for me, if someone is a horrible, awful, evil person, if someone is coming after me, then I want to know as much as I possibly can about that person. And I would rather dodge a bullet than fire my own in these situations. Anything that brings us closer to peace, anything that allows us to have a dialogue, anything that lets us set aside the simmering hatred that Americans seem to have for Russia in general is a good thing, I think. And two leaders going, we might not be killing each other after all. I think that lets the world breathe a collective sigh of relief. And it means that should you happen to, in your travels, run into a Russian, hopefully the conversation will be between you and him or her. If you as an American meet a Russian in the street, you won't think, here's somebody that meddled in our election. Their bots destroyed our democratic process. Hopefully, with little handshakes like this, that could be a beginning as opposed to an end. Hopefully, it gives us the impetus to believe that maybe we can all chat. Maybe we can all talk. Maybe we can all understand. And maybe we can take some of the fear out of our relationships. And maybe we can take some of the power away from these guys that, like I said, one a Bond villain, another person who could not be trusted to make the right decision about fake tan and haircuts, seem to have over all of our lives at the moment.
You're longing for that shining sun. You walk these streets most every day. You're waiting to get washed away. Radio.
Now, more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me.
You know, it is indicative of where we are at as a nation, economically speaking, that a certain type of child is going extinct in America. Yes, a certain type of child is going extinct in America. Why? Well, it has to do with the fact that you work so hard every single day, grinding away to give the best that you can to the people that matter the most, and you're still not sure. You're still not sure at the end of the week if you're going to be able to make it. The idea that you are working 2, 3, 4, 5, however many jobs it is you work to make ends meet, that's not enough. And because of that, this type of child is going extinct. Why? Who is it? We'll get into it in just a second after, well, we hear Zach Galifianakis talk about the things you cannot do. Now you're no longer a child.
My name is Zach Galifianakis, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm named after my granddad. My middle name, my native name is Zach Granddad Galifianakis. When you look like I do, it's hard to get a table for one at Chuck E. Cheese. I was at the Natalie Merchant laser show the other day, and when I wrote this next piece of business, never meet anyone online and agree to meet them out in public. I did that. The first thing the woman says to me is, "You don't look like Matt Damon." And I said, "You don't look like Penny Marshall." If you read my blog, you know I'm a Pilates freak, and have you seen this show on Lifetime about that woman?
Yeah, it is hard to get a table for one at Chuck E. Cheese. When was the last time you went to Chuck E. Cheese? I haven't been to Chuck E. Cheese since I was a kid, and man, that place used to be a magical place for me. My kid sister is about to have a kid, and I want to be the uncle of fun. That's what I want. And it's not that I want to load the kid up with sugar and have them play video games constantly, but I'll never forget being a kid and going to Chuck E. Cheese. And I don't know what that place is like now. Maybe it's absolutely horrible, but I had such happy memories there because of the video games, and I love playing the video games. And the idea that someone could take $5, I'd never seen anything like $5 in my tiny life. I'd seen $1 that I'd put into a token machine before and gotten 4 tokens back. But when you put $5 into one of those token machines at a Chuck E. Cheese, do you remember that feeling? A seemingly never-ending cascade of tokens, i.e. happiness, poured out of the machine, and you're going to be playing video games, and you're going to be playing them forever. $5. It was a magical thing at a Chuck E. Cheese. And man, I'm really excited to do that. Be the uncle of fun. When my kid sister's child is old enough to appreciate it. And I don't know, that might be the only time I ever get the opportunity to give a kid that sort of experience, and I hope it's not. I've always wanted to have a kid. I always thought it would be cool. But, well, folks like me, and maybe folks like you, are the reason why a certain type of child is going extinct. It's true. I don't know if you caught this or not, but a certain type of child in America is going extinct. If you're like me, you're cautious about this sort of thing. I don't know if I'll ever be able to support a kid in the way I'd like to. If I had a kid, I'd want to be able to give that kid a shot. How do you give a kid a shot? By working incredibly hard to make sure that they're provided for, that they've got an opportunity at an education, that they've got an opportunity to have a real life. But what happens in those situations? You wind up working so that your kid can have a future, but then you don't wind up participating in it. These are the battles that I have internally when it comes to the idea of having a child. And I know this is a battle that a lot of people are having because a certain type of child, like I said, is going extinct. Here's another thing that baby boomers used to do before they ruined our society and made everything impossibly expensive for everybody. Middle children are going extinct. Yeah. According to new data, middle children are going extinct. Why? Well, it's because in much the same way I'm scared to have a kid, let alone 2 kids. Well, nobody wants to have 3 or more kids anymore. Yeah. Everybody's worried that they can't handle it. Can't handle the expense that if they have a 3rd kid, that kid won't have a shot. Back in the late 1970s, 59% of mothers had 3 or more children. In the 70s, 59%, over half the female population, or half the population of moms, had 3 kids or more. Today, that's dropped severely, down to 30%, and it continues to drop. Also, the majority of people said that 3 or 4 kids was ideal back in the 1970s. If you ask someone today, what's the ideal number of children to have? 2. And it really just looks like it's a purely financial thing. In 1960, it cost $198,000 to raise a child to age 18. In 1960. How much do you suppose it costs now, according to economists? How much does it cost to raise a child? In 2013, $245,000. You're looking at a Lamborghini, you're going, I probably can't afford that. And if you're crunching the numbers, well, that child that you're thinking of having is as affordable as a Lamborghini. But having one or two of them is a lot more feasible than having 3 or 4 of them. So yeah. So a study found that there is now a direct connection between having more money and having more kids. Which means that thanks to the way economics are shaken out in this world, where we're all working so hard. All of us in America are working so hard every single day. So many people I know working more than one job, working 2 and 3 jobs. Just everybody I know, especially the ones with kids, grinding away, giving the best that they can to the people that matter the most. And because of the uncertainty that a child faces with regard to education, healthcare, a future, all of the above, the main thing standing in the way of people having families is that they feel like they can't afford one. And you know what? Sadly, maybe they're right.
Leave the stimulation to the professionals.
Everyone is so smart.
KPRC, more stimulating talk radio.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The dumbing up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
How old are you? One of the cool things about this show is that, well, talk radio has traditionally been the property of angry old dudes. And one of the nicest emails I've ever gotten about this show was from an angry old dude saying how it brought him together with his younger daughter. He had a teenage daughter. He listens to the show with a teenage daughter. And because of the things that we talk about on the show, I guess because I have a slightly younger take on, well, just life in general, being a little bit younger than your average sort of crusty 50, 60-year-old talk radio host, that this was a show that he could relate to with his daughter. And he said that this show had actually brought him closer to his daughter and helped them, agree on some stuff, and some stuff that they didn't necessarily agree on before helped him sort of explain his position to her. And man, I could not be happier. Like, that's a mission accomplished type of situation for me. That's a mission accomplished type of situation for me. If I know that I'm managing to bridge any kind of divide, I'm super stoked. But if it's within a family, if it's between a father and a daughter, there's nothing that makes me feel better than that. And thank you so much for the email. I really, really appreciate it. So I don't know how old you are. Generally speaking, on a show like this, listen to a typical talk radio audience, I could count on the fact that most of my listeners were in that coveted male 25 to 54 demographic. But it's all over the place with this one. So you might be an 18-year-old girl. You might be in your 20s. You might be in your 30s. But let's just for a second assume that you're done with your 20s. How do you feel about them in retrospect? Man, you might have really been dialed in. You might have had the world figured out when you were in your 20s. But I got to tell you, I did not. And what Taylor Tomlinson said about being in your 20s rang especially true for me. Have a listen to this.
I'm in my 20s. I shouldn't be making any permanent decisions, okay? Being in your 20s is like having a virus. You can't do anything. You just have to wait until you're better. And the whole time you're waiting, everybody's like, these are the best years of your life. These are the best years of your whole life. And I'm like, I just used a fast food napkin as toilet paper. This gets worse. Everything feels like that in your 20s. Temporary, pointless. Dating in your 20s is like watching Titanic, where you're just like, this isn't going to work out, but let's just enjoy this first part where we're hooking up in cars and pretending he's not poor. Put a jacket on anybody. I hung out with some girls my own age last week, one of whom told me she's writing a memoir at 23. And I'm like, maybe start with a pamphlet. I don't know. Yeah, if you're writing a memoir in your 20s, you had better have been murdered. Like, unless you are murdered or you're that chick who got her arm bitten off by the shark and kept surfing, no memoir. You have to earn your autobiography.
Your 20s are like having a virus. You can't do anything except for wait until it gets better. I would say that one of my biggest regrets of my 20s is that I took things entirely too seriously. I was trying to figure it out. I was in a high pressure situation. I was a lead singer of a rock band. Now that doesn't sound like a high pressure situation, but I was in a band with a bunch of different dudes. There I was, a teenager, late teens, early 20s in this band, and everybody else in the band was older than me. For me, this was fun. This was a blasty blast. This was a chance to go around the world and live in tour buses and rock shows and do dumb stuff. But for everybody else in the band, it was sort of their last shot at rock stardom. They'd been working at it since they were my age, and finally they got where they were going. They got that elusive record deal, and well, I don't know if it was because I sort of took on their stress and tension about, oh man, this has to work, or whether it was because I just absorbed it, because as the front man of a band, there's a lot of attention placed on you by record labels and management, and like, what's this guy doing? He better not be screwing up. He's like, so I took life very, very seriously, and I have to admit that my big regret about my 20s is that I didn't just spend more time goofing off and having fun. I feel like I missed out in that respect. That said, I think I had significantly more fun than all my friends that went to college and whatnot. So maybe I shouldn't have that deep of a sense of regret about my 20s. But whatever the case may be, one thing I was not smart about was my spending in my 20s. Were you? Who was? Absolutely no one was. They give you a credit card lickety split and you're like, I never have to pay for anything ever again. And well, as a result, I wish I had been more fiscally responsible when it came to treating myself to just ridiculous crap that I did not need back in the day. I didn't have rent, I didn't have a bill, I didn't have any of the above, so I'd walk off a tour bus where I was living and I'd walk into a Flying J truck stop situation and I would just spend hundreds of dollars on meaningless crap because I was bored. Toy guns and candy to huck out into the audience and things of that nature. It was a very weird time in my life where I was spending a phenomenal amount of cash on nothing other than, I guess, sort of indulging my silliness, treating myself, as it were. Well, let me ask you this. Do you know how much you spend in your lifetime to treat yourself? If life were perfect and there weren't things like bills or dental care, you'd use all of that money to treat yourself whenever you wanted to. But as it stands now, how much money do you think the average American spends in their lifetime treating themselves? Now, we discussed earlier in the show that the cost of raising the average kid is around $250,000 from the age of 0 to 18. And if you think you're not taking care of them after that, well, then you've either raised an incredibly responsible kid or you're kidding yourself. So how much money do you spend treating yourself? Well, it's not as much as it costs to raise a kid, but it's up there. And we'll get into it after we take a quick look at the events of today in our segment, My Witness News. A former Kardashian nanny has gone on the record saying that Kris Jenner is a perfectionist. Yeah, has gone on the record saying that Kris Jenner is a perfectionist. Yeah. Now, do you believe me when I tell you that it was her hand holding the boom mic in Kim Kardashian's sex tape? Billy Bush's wife has filed for divorce. That lasted longer than a lot of people thought it might. Now, at least if she meets Donald Trump, she'll be free to be grabbed by the hoo-ha. He lost his job. He lost his wife. He's like a cowboy in a country song who wears salmon-colored skinny jeans. Taylor Swift. Did you see this? Taylor Swift got stuck in a malfunctioning stage Saturday night. She got stuck in a gondola that is part of her stage. A gondola? I've never been to see Taylor Swift live. Because, you know, I'm a straight adult male. But, gondola, you say? All right, I'd bite. I'd be curious to see what's going on in that show. But yeah, Taylor Swift got stuck in a malfunctioning stage gondola on Saturday night, which I believe explains the fact that today she released a song called I Can't Believe You Stabbed Me in the Back Like That stage gondola. Sarah Palin is upset Sacha Baron Cohen tricked her into an interview. Yeah, Sarah Palin has gone on the record saying she's upset that Sacha Baron Cohen tricked her into an interview. Now, Sacha Baron Cohen posed as a veteran to do this interview, which, if you're like me, immediately made you bristle when you heard about it. Maybe there's going to be some sort of mitigating context when we actually see it, but yeah. I was like, impersonation of a veteran? What the hell, man? But Sarah Palin, like I said, is upset that Sacha Baron Cohen, Bruno, Borat, that guy, tricked her into an interview. Although she should have suspected it was a prank the second she heard someone was interested in talking to her. Congratulations to Kate Upton and Justin Verlander. They are expecting their first child. I would imagine Verlander's excitement will quickly fade when he realizes that in about 9 months he'll have to share those. Congratulations to France, who won the World Cup. Because, the World Cup is in a war. Sorry, it's cheap. Great. Now the French are going to act arrogant. Horrible. Who would have thought? Tim Tebow has gone on the record saying that he thinks Baker Mayfield can turn the Cleveland Browns around, and if anyone knows what it takes to successfully quarterback an NFL team, it's probably not Tim Tebow. Although he's actually, doing okay at this baseball thing. Is he ever going to be a major league player for my beloved New York Mets? Well, bearing in mind that the New York Mets have spent the vast majority of this season playing like they're a single A ball team, why the hell not? But he did play in a minor league all-star game, so there's that. Middle children, you and I discussed this earlier, middle children are going extinct because fewer and fewer couples want more than 2 kids. Yeah, middle children are going extinct because fewer and fewer couples want more than 2 kids. Just think in a generation or so, no one will understand the meaning of Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. There's a new high-tech mirror that points out all of your flaws. Yeah, there's a new high-tech mirror that points out all of your flaws. A smart mirror that does this. Wow. Must be for men who don't have a wife. A new novel features Barack Obama and Joe Biden teaming up to solve a mystery. Yeah. Novel features a fictitious account of Barack Obama and Joe Biden teaming up to solve a mystery. I would imagine the mystery in question is how the hell their party managed to completely screw up the 2016 election. Speaker of the House Paul Ryan went on the record saying his SUV was eaten by a family of woodchucks. Yeah, apparently, this family of woodchucks got into his SUV and ate through all these cables, rendering it useless. So yeah, Speaker of the House Paul Ryan, while he was saying in the same week that Paul Ryan said that Donald Trump was wrong to meet with Vladimir Putin because Russia is not our ally, he also managed to tell us that his SUV was eaten by a family of woodchucks. Or as woodchucks are now calling it, fake news. I think he's going to retaliate by taking away the woodchucks' health care. Kate Middleton and Meghan Markle attended a Wimbledon match together. They decided on Wimbledon, only because I think there wasn't a VIP section at the local monster truck rally. McDonald's in Illinois and Iowa have possibly been serving salad tainted with a dangerous parasite. Oh. So tough news for the 6 people on Earth who've ever walked into a McDonald's for a salad. All right, then. Let's you and I talk about how much you spend on treating yourself.
3 words for you. Treat yourself. What do we treat ourselves to?
Clothes.
Treat yourself.
Fragrances.
Treat yourself.
Massages.
Treat yourself.
Mimosas.
Treat yourself.
Fine leather goods.
Treat yourself.
It's the best day of the year.
The best day of the year!
If life were perfect and there weren't things like bills or dental care, you'd use all of your money to treat yourself. But as it stands now, well, we're still carving out a decent amount of cash for that very important purpose. According to a new study, you will spend an average of $143,280 in your lifetime treating yourself. $143,280 rather. Here's how that breaks down. If you're like the vast majority of us, you spend an average of $199 every single month on things that aren't essential at all in your life. Things that are not essential, but that you really want. For me, that would be, well, not being local to New York anymore. I can't go to the games and get the free t-shirts at Citi Field when the Mets play. So to feel connected to it, those things go up on eBay before the game's even over. You can buy that stuff. People sell it on eBay before they've even left the stadium a lot of the time to me. So that would be an example of me treating myself. Something that is non-essential, but I really want because it makes me feel good. It can mean anything from a candy bar to a new phone or concert tickets or a trip. $199 every month, which adds up to $2,388 per year. And over approximately 60 years of adult life, that comes to $143,280. The study also found stereotypically that women are 3 times more likely than men to spend money on things like massages and spa treatments. But guys are way more likely to spend money on new technology, cars, things of that nature. So yes, over the course of your lifetime, you will spend $143,280 on treating yourself.
3 words for you. Treat yourself.